Would you vote for someone held civilly liable if a woman's against her will? Raise your hand if yes.
Trump is a nationalist. He's a horrible man, he's selfish, he's racist, and he wants to make money. And that is why he's a good man for the country.
Welcome back to our biggest middle ground ever. This is part 2. In part 1, we heard these two sides discuss the issues, and we even heard some middle ground solutions offered.
There are women who are forced to have babies that they did not want to make. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the lives that are not here yet.
Hundreds of thousands of Jews used to live there, and now there's less than 50. And in a lot of states, 1 Jew left. So don't talk to me about apartheid. Arabs are allowed in Israel, no Jews are allowed in Gaza.
Tax cuts on the middle class.
I'd agree on that.
But in this episode, we're going to hear the two sides discuss who they think should be president, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. The focus of this discussion is going to be a group discussion. The focus is, who do you think would be a better president, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris?
I think at the end of the day, we have to really look on race issues. I think when it comes to record, that Donald Trump has had a far better record when it comes to race issues, when it comes to HBCUs, when it comes to the First Step Act, when it comes to opportunity zones, and I think also when it comes on to school choice as well, because school choice creates competition within the school districts, so then you can send your kid out of your district if their school is not good and is not teaching your kid. So I think at the end of the day, it's pretty stark when it comes to record, and I think Kamala Harris doesn't really have a good track record when it comes to when she was a DA in California and all the minorities she put in prison for minor drug offenses. So I really would like to ask you guys on this side, why do you think with that track record that Kamala Harris is a better option than Donald Trump?
School choice takes money out of public school systems, which I know you guys don't like that. It's too woke for you. That's fine. But that's what's actually happening with school choice. Ask Betsy DeVos. I mean, Betsy DeVos. It was horrible. Donald Trump, I mean, we can go down the whole, twice impeached, convicted felon, blah, 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 blah. Coherent sentences. Kamala Harris does that. And but she's not a narcissist. She doesn't think of just herself. She thinks of us.
I want to respond to him really quick because he listed a whole bunch of reasons that had nothing to do with race. Like, I'm talking about race right now and what Kamala Harris has done to help minorities in this country. I don't want to hear stuff about convicted felon. I don't want to hear stuff about twice impeached. I want to hear about
convicted felons. You brought up drug felons. Because do you actually know, my friend, how many people went to prison under Kamala Harris as a DA for drug offenses?
Yeah, but how many people were convicted? That's the problem. When you have
do you
a
know?
record,
I'm asking you.
It changes your life significantly. I do know.
I do know.
It was 1,940 people that were convicted. And a minute amount of that went to prison, but it still doesn't matter. They're still on probation. They still have a record.
Her administration convicted 45 men, black men.
They went to prison.
That's not my
statement I'm trying to say.
Can I ask you something as a black conservative? Your candidate says, I want to make America great again. You tell me when America was great, and then you tell me, would you go back to wherever it was great as a black American? And it's got to be before 2016, my friend, because that's when he was saying that.
I think America was great when everyone was benefiting from economic prosperity.
No, not general, sir. I'm asking for a specific time. When was America great?
If you want to know when America was great, ask any immigrant who risked their lives to come here.
I really want to hear from
America is great.
I really want to hear from the black man on this, because the second part of my question is, would you go back to that time? When was America great?
America was great when everyone had equality and everyone was moving towards equality. That's when America was great. That's when America was great. After the Civil Rights Movement, that's when America was great and making progress in change.
So let's say the late 1960s, you're saying as a black man, you would transport yourself back to the 1960s.
No, I think America was great when economically everyone was doing better. When we're making progress towards equality, that's when America was great. And
so the sum of the condition of America was when people had economic equality, and you think that was the 1960s?
No, I never said that was the 1960s. I said everything past that. I said everything past that. We've made so much progress from then.
In the 8 years that Donald Trump has been involved in politics, I've seen all the Make America Great hats and all the great T-shirts and all that great stuff. But I'm trying to figure out, as a, I think, intelligent black man, Well, when would I go back?
So I do have an answer for you in this equation. Those years will be 2017 to 2021. Alice Johnson is free right now. And I know you want to pigeonhole me into a period. All right, you want to go to prior to 2016? Let's look at the Reconstruction era when we had black Americans as a whole that were finally free from the scourge of slavery because of what happened in the Civil War. They banded together to create something called the Republican Party, and the Democrats created something called the Ku Klux Klan to find and exterminate as many of those recently freed black men as possible. We can fast forward then to the 1960s if you want to. We had Lyndon Baines Johnson, Democrat president of the United States, who said, I will have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And then he brought the Great Societies Act,
Guys,
put us all on welfare,
it's not working.
and emphasized Margaret Sanger to exterminate as many of us as possible.
Chandler, it's not working. Let's move on.
I want to collectively, let's all bring it down for a second and just speak socially about what's happened since 2015. I grew up Republican. My mother is literally on that side right there. And I do not remember it ever being like this. And the reason that it became like this, in my opinion, was because of Donald Trump, right? So we saw this insane racial divide. We saw the increase in Asian hate crimes. We saw the racist xenophobia. When we talk about illegal immigration from the last episode, we never talk about the white ones. We're only talking about the brown ones, right? So like, there's all of these social issues that have changed. Like, honestly, I am less attached to Kamala Harris and Donald Trump than I am to you. I'm gonna interact with you far more often. And so why do we feel that like we can't just, like I went to, and on the break, like I went and got a coffee and it was like chill, right? Like that's how it should be. It used to be like that. I remember when it was like that. And the reason that it is so polarized and it's so toxic and the reason that we're like cutting off family members and like blocking people on Instagram is because of Donald Trump, you guys. It really wasn't like this. And I just need you to acknowledge, just acknowledge the change.
Respond to that. What happened with Donald Trump actually became an expression of what Republicans were feeling. For years, we've been taking the brunt of a whole bunch of stuff. We've had Hillary Clinton call us a basket of deplorables. She called the
racist deplorables. Do you identify with who she called deplorables?
Wait, she called us basket of deplorables. I remember Julia Roberts got on the television. She said that Republicans are somewhere between reptiles and repugnant. We've been taking the name calling. You had Obama talk about those people with guns and whatever. We've been hearing all these things, getting peeps of these things behind the curtains. The difference between Donald Trump and those people is that Donald Trump says out loud what you guys, or not you guys, but what the Democrats have been saying in private. And what's happened is the Democrats has now been recorded and it's come out, all of their stuff. But both sides have been saying everything. And so finally, Republicans said enough. With the Tea Party came out, taxed enough already. We said no more. We got to stop this man. And we just got, I get so frustrated about it.
We heard your son say he remembers a time when it just wasn't like this. Do you agree?
No. And the reason that I don't agree is
come on.
Wait, no. Well, in our home, everything was peaceful and copacetic. But what's happened...
was. Emphasis on was. Was copacetic, and then it changed. We never fought like this. Our family was never this separate until Donald Trump. And that's my point, is that it wasn't always like this. Your party has changed.
Right.
And you guys keep letting it change. This is not the Republican Party that I grew up in. Y'all just like move with this like hive mindset where he says something and y'all are like, yes, sir. And I'm like, that's weird. It's weird of y'all. You don't push back on your politicians enough.
So
you let him change your mind.
I have to do the mommy thing and go like that.
Okay.
And the reason is because we never came to you and we never trashed the Democratic Party. We said, look, these people are saying these kind of things. We kept our mouths shut. But once Donald Trump came out and he said that the things that we all were thinking. When he came out and he said, this is a shithole country. This is happening here. People were thinking these things. And Donald Trump was just boorish enough to say what people were thinking. And Donald Trump is not a politician. He's a regular Joe average guy.
That's the problem.
So anyway.
Let's stop there. Let's hear a new voice on this side.
Yeah, I think what also perfectly highlights how disruptive the Republican Party has gone is the debates. We see Trump debating people, it always devolves into chaos. We saw the J.D. Vance and the Tim Walz debate. Even though I don't agree with J.D. Vance on a lot of things, they were able to have a productive comment. And the underlying factor is Trump. because if Trump had been in the debate, it would have devolved into madness. And I feel like he's ruined debates, made them more contentious. He's made discussions between people more contentious because he sees it as a more personal standpoint rather than a political standpoint.
Okay, so this is the way I see things. Years ago, we didn't have this division. What we saw as Republicans starting in 2016 was Hillary Clinton pay for a foreign dossier to set President Trump up for Russia collusion. We went through $40 million of a special counsel. We have had 8 years of lawfare, including the current 700 years they're trying to get him to serve in prison. We've seen assassination attempts. Now, the biggest problem that I see is we've got an invisible fourth branch of bureaucracy that is unelected, that has more power than our elected officials. We've got a media that's lying to the American people on both sides, dividing us. And until we do our own research and we see what's going on for real, we're in big trouble. Donald Trump cannot be bought. Elon Musk he's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. How are you going to buy a billionaire? He's already got the money. Think about the threat to this unelected bureaucracy when you've got people like Elon Musk, RFK, both Democrats, and Donald Trump, who was also a Democrat, coming together to say, you know what? We're going to take on Big Pharma. We're going to take on the military war complex, and we're going to put the American people first.
I just want to respond to the America First claim, because Donald Trump has never once put every single American first. It's only the Americans that he thinks deserve it, such as the upper class and white people, honestly. Because he's, time and time again, the first statement he made whenever he ran for presidency in 2016 was, Mexico, they're not sending our best. And you're telling me that what he said was what you've all been thinking. That's already racist. That's already inherently racist. Mexico, I'm not saying you're all racist, but that is what that statement is. It's a racist generalization of Mexicans. So he's never stood for every people. He's not stood for trans people. All of you have constantly said that trans people are mental illnesses, that trans people, that it's just in their mind, that they don't actually feel this way. Like at the end of the day, I don't necessarily, I can be somebody who says that my party isn't completely right on all things, right? But I can confidently say that Kamala Harris over Donald Trump stands for more Americans than Donald Trump ever has.
If transgenderism is not a mental illness, then why is the suicide rate in the transgender community 40%, which is higher than Jews in Nazi Germany concentration camps?
Mental illness and mental disorders are two separate things.
So my name is Ryan Leon. Just like Ren said, I don't agree with everything that Democrats do, but I think Kamala Harris, at least she's putting forth policies that are more populist that I think everybody can get behind. So I got married 6 months ago. I'm looking forward to creating a family, and she has a proposal for $6,000 for the first year. More money for small businesses, like $50,000, I think it was, and as well as help for helping Americans get their first home. So it's policies like that that are actually solutions that people need in their communities and in their lives to help move the country forward. Whereas I see Donald Trump, once again, he's kind of having us talk about him, right? He's the center of attention. And I don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about the solutions. As far as what his side is offering, I've heard deport all the illegals. I've heard, build a wall and those things. I don't think that helps us as a people in our everyday lives, and we need to move forward with that.
Life wasn't bad under Trump. Like, you still have a job, right? You have a job. Everyone had a job in this room, I'm assuming. I would hope. But America's always been great, but it's even been greater with Trump being in presidency, because we had money. We went to war. There was war that was over in Afghanistan. Kamala Harris doesn't even know what's going on over there. I have military friends that are over in the Middle East. She was like, oh, there's no one over there. She doesn't know that because she doesn't know foreign policies.
A criticism I frequently have, and this is a chance for you guys to prove me wrong, of conservatives, specifically MAGA conservatives, is it seems like Trump can't drop a shit without you guys running to that's the new thing. So I just want to get a hand count really quick. This is not a flame or backhanded. I'm serious. I'm genuinely interested. Can you raise your hand for me if there's anything major, legislation or otherwise, that Trump has done over the last few years that you disagree with?
I understand what you're saying. You're saying it's a cult-like mentality, correct? That he does anything, we follow along with it. 100%. There's people in this movement that do that. We call them grifters. I will criticize, if he wins, if he loses, either way, I'm criticizing these people no matter what. Obviously, I'm a pro-choice Republican. That ain't very popular, I'll tell you that. The only thing is, on the other side, I've made fun of this for a long time. I think it goes both ways. I think we can agree on that. But it was literally a meme where it was like, okay, Ukraine flag in bio, Palestine flag in bio, vaccines, masks, all these things. Like, you cannot admit that you guys are not equally, if not more insanely cult-like. They literally were like, Biden's done, Kamala is our president. It's like, it's a fucking meme for a fucking reason. Give me a fucking break.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody voted for her. We voted for Trump.
Real quick.
He took a bullet for this country.
Okay, time out. Just want to point out, we did not hear a specific thing that somebody on this side disagrees with about Trump. So let's close that loop, and then we'll go back to you guys.
Yeah, I totally disagree with how Trump handled COVID, because I wish he didn't spend all that money giving out these stimulus checks and things like that. And I wish he didn't promote the vaccine as much as he did, because, to be honest, that is a big reason why there are problems in our economy right now. That being said, I do think that while Trump is not perfect, he's the best option we have right now with the biggest problems our world is facing, such as war that has erupted everywhere during the Biden administration, which there was not a single war under Trump, and also the invasion on our southern border, which I know the Democrats are trying to pretend they're so pro securing the border now, like you guys haven't been calling us racist for the past 10 years for caring about illegal immigration.
Sarah, to respond to you about illegal immigration, just very quickly, if I were to give you the test that my parents had to take to be allowed in this country legally, would you pass it?
If I studied, did they have time to study?
But you were born here and you got citizenship just by being born here. You should know all this because you learned it in school, no?
I was actually born in Canada.
Oh, okay.
And guess what? I was born a dual citizen, but...
Okay,
so
well,
that's
there's
why I
that.
came
You're
here.
a dual citizen.
Yes, I'm here legally. That's what that means. And if I was given a test, I would study and take it. Did your parents have time to study?
My parents, their first languages are not English.
Oh, okay, so...
You get to take it in English. My parents are from the Philippines. They had to learn English to come here and take the same test.
Quiet.
This whole country is based off of immigration. Your parents immigrated from here, from Canada, sure. But you were, okay, I don't know your history, but you said you're dual citizenship. So I'm assuming that you have family from Canada. You probably grew up speaking English, not having to translate for your parents. You probably were not called racial slurs even though they are immigrants. Your immigration is very different from mine.
Okay, so I'm gonna respond to this because I came from a very poor country, third world country, and I speak 4 languages, and you guys can still hear my accent. When I first moved here from Haiti to college, I had to take a TOEFL test to be able to get into college, and I did it. Every single exam in my first year of college, I had to translate everything into French in my head first to understand what the question is asking and answer the question. Guess what? Everybody had 1 hour, whatever the time is to do a test. It took me also an hour to do all that. I never once thought that I was a victim. But let me tell you something though. This country is built on immigrants. I like that. But at the same time, Democrats is at a point right now where they are shipping a bunch of illegal immigrants. They don't even know who they are. Even people from my own country. We have actual criminals. Don't shake your heads because I'm Haitian. I speak Creole very, very clearly, and I still have families in Haiti. We have criminals from my own country traveling here to the border. And where they are placing them in the black communities, like for example in Chicago, they are closing indoor playgrounds where black kids and Hispanic kids are using during the winter time to, not just that, but also to keep them off the street. What they are doing, they are putting these people inside those places, and they are taking funds away from the people who are there. So as an immigrant, I think it's the worst thing for this country, for black people, Hispanic people, to vote Democrats, because you guys have been leading this country for 16 years. Even when Obama was president, Black America was the worst it's ever been. Trump has done the most he's ever done in just 4 years. So cut the bull crap.
I'm gonna be really quick. I just want to respond to two earlier points. We mentioned like Elon Musk and like RFK being former Democrats. Where's Trump's entire previous cabinet? Where's Mike Pence? They can't even endorse him. Every single person that worked with Trump doesn't even support him this time around. And then to your earlier point, oh, there was no wars. What did Trump actually do? Trump signed the Abraham Accords, which sidestepped the Palestinian issue and created the exact same kind of conditions that led to things like October 7th. If you knew had a single clue about the way the Middle East politics worked, or even in the case of Russia, Ukraine, he did nothing to end Russia's occupation of the Donbass and Crimea. You would know that Trump's foreign policy is not based in reality, and just the fact that two wars may have happened to have started under Biden's administration is not a causational argument.
Okay, so he addressed me, so I want to address you back. Okay, so first of all, we've got people that want to take on Big Pharma, that want to take on the military-industrial complex. And as far as you saying about the border, the Biden administration has lost 325,000 missing migrant children. And that should be a big deal to everybody in this room. 325,000. There are, according to DHS right now, there are over 400,000 criminal aliens in our country right now. All we're asking for is a legal process, and I don't think that that is too much to ask for. My husband's a legal immigrant, and he came here legally. Everybody that comes into this country, it should be a privilege. There's not another country in this world that you can just walk across the border and say, give me a $5,000 debit card. Not only that, as far as the Ukraine war, it wouldn't
Lori,
happen.
we're not going into
Trump.
Ukraine right now. You've had the mic.
Well, he did. He hit three things. And as far as Hamas, give the hostages back. Give the damn hostages back. Maybe we'll end the war.
Okay, Sam. I see Sam's ready with the mic.
Okay, so my main concern, I wouldn't say that I am strictly going to vote for any candidate just because of my political affiliation. If there is a corrupt Democrat as on the ticket, I'm not going to vote for them just because I'm a registered Democrat. And I don't think I can say the same for most. And I want to say most because I know there are some Republicans who would vote for Kamala Harris, and there are some Democrats that would vote for Donald Trump. For the most part, I don't see that same sentiment with the Republican Party. I cannot stand by and vote for a man who is held civilly liable in the state of New York for sexual assault against E. Jean Carroll by a juror of 9 people, 6 men, 3 women, with jurors that are selected by the attorneys in both parties. I can't vote for a man who is held liable with 34 felonies. If there was some sort of thing that would happen in any candidate for the Democratic ticket, I would be able to step aside and vote for a different candidate. And I just don't see the same sentiment with the Republican Party.
It's my opinion that the sad reality is that there's things that we should be able to argue and disagree on, taxes, border, and all that. But there's stuff that I think we should all reach to a consensus and find it deep within ourselves to understand. Gender-affirming surgery on minors should just be inherently wrong. A minor cannot consent. So I think we should all agree on these things. When it comes to the border, Democrats like to pretend, and Republicans like to pretend like she's open border as well. She's really much closed border. She's just an ineffective politician at enforcing that closed border policy. People are still crossing over that she does not want. She said, don't come. 2021 and 2022 had the highest number of deaths crossing the border in history. I think we should all be concerned about that. If we want to have open border policy, let's have an open border policy. There's merits to that. Kamala Harris doesn't have that. So it's just farce to pretend like she is inclusive. She's just a bad politician that's making people cross illegally and kill themselves in the process.
Okay, I have 2 questions that I'm going to ask the opposing side. Would you vote for someone held civilly liable of forcefully penetrating a woman's vagina against her will? Raise your hand if yes. So all of you guys that didn't raise your hand, you guys are voting for a guy held civilly liable of forcefully penetrating E. Jean Carroll's vagina against her will.
They can't prove it.
Okay, I mean, I just want to say, like, the nature of this conversation, we should be assuming good intentions on both sides of the issue. Parker, your question is aimed to make us look like bad guys. That does not do good things for our country. That is why we are so divisive. That's why there are families that are dividing, because we're calling each other bad people, as opposed to just, oh, they have a different outlook on things. They have a different view on things. Maybe they have a different voting philosophy. Maybe for you, you don't want to vote for a convicted felon. But in our opinion, he's not actually a convicted felon, and so we're gonna vote for him. Or he's not actually guilty of that crime. But the point is, we can go back and forth accusing each other of you're a bad person or you're a bad person. That doesn't do anything for the conversation. It doesn't do anything for our viewers. Let's actually go back to the issues. Let's go back to policies instead of silly questions trying to make us seem like bad guys.
Okay, I'm Soraya. I haven't spoken yet, and in part that's because you guys are so smart, like on both sides. You know so much detail about so many things, and I'm almost glad that I don't, because I would be just as like angry, I think, as you guys if I knew as much information as you did. So my angle where I come from is I'm really against polarization. Like that's my main thing. I really can't stand it. I adore people on both sides of the political spectrum. Like I have family members and, you know, just people that I adore, and they're all amazing and they all make good points, and I listen to all of them. One thing that I've tried to look into is a little bit on the more historical side of things without getting too deep into all the nitty-gritty details, more like an overview. And one thing I learned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that there's like been a rise of conservatism that actually started in like the 1960s that was happening alongside the kind of civil rights, you know, rallies that were going on. They didn't get any coverage. Civil rights people got coverage, and there were kind of two branches. And one was like a libertarian conservative who was really pro-free market, and then the others were more traditional conservatives that were really pro-tradition and family values. I'm hearing a lot more of that from you guys, and I'm saying that's great, you know, it's fine. One thing I kind of want my own side to understand maybe is that the right has been trying to be heard for a really long time, and the liberals definitely won the culture war. And in my opinion, it is a lot easier to say how you feel as a liberal. It's not as easy to say how you feel as a Republican, and I think that's a really big issue. They have been silenced. We don't listen to them as much, in part because their views are something that we've decided are not okay. But we decided that, and history could have gone a different way, and we could have decided that they were right, and then we'd all be the ones that were saying, no, we're the ones that should be listened to. So I'm just anti-polarization, and I want to say we all need to like look into it a bit more, maybe, to understand each other better.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is an app and website that is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Their team of journalists believe that unbiased news should be the standard and not just the exception. So they report down the middle with facts, delivering news without bias, filter, or spin. Plus, their Media Mist tool allows you to discover news that's being underreported or not even reported at all by different sides of mainstream media. That's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. The work they're doing gives us a complete picture of the news straight from our phones and tablets with their app. Go to san.com/middleground or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel, you're also supporting a group of journalists that are raising the bar on news and focusing on serving you unbiased, straight facts. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now let's get into it.
Which party do you guys think will win this year?
I'm going to go first. I'm just going to speak up. I think Kamala Harris is going to win just purely on the sake of the fact that every day our democracy is eroding, and I think we've been able to see it just in the past 6 hours that we've been here. We have divulged into chaos at just every single point of contention, and if we can't agree as a group of 60 people here, we're not going to be able to agree as a group of 300 million. And if our president won't agree that he lost the election in 2020 and gets another 70 million people around him, that is not a very good thing that is going to end well at all. And I think we all need to take a beat, realize that it's kind of batshit crazy that 4 years later, he's saying that I won the election. And there are millions of people on the right that are saying he's the president, it's a shadow government, the military's in control, all of that. We need to realize that that's not okay. And we need to come back to the middle and say in November, we're gonna vote, we're gonna have a civil, free, fair election, and Kamala Harris is gonna get elected.
Okay.
I'm not one of those Republicans that just thinks Trump's going to win because he's a Republican. I think he's going to win because he's the only person that stands on merit and he's authentic. The left has pushed so much rhetoric, harmful rhetoric, that I think people are starting to wake up to this. It is, excuse me, but it's bullshit. You guys push rhetoric that Trump's a Nazi, that everybody that supports him is a Nazi, and funny coincidence, he gets shot at. You guys are pushing this hateful rhetoric. We have celebrities and influencers that are saying they want to blow up the White House when he was in presidency. We have, Maxine Waters said that we need to take him out and shoot him. That is ridiculous. We don't have that language towards you guys. This is a personal experience for me. I have family that's liberal. I have family that believes separate than I do. They're the ones that separated from me. I want to be with them. I want to see them. They don't want anything to do with me because of my beliefs. And I think people are starting to wake up to this crap that's going on because people can see through fake people. Kamala does so many things that if Trump did, we would be attacking him for it. She talked in a fake Mexican accent to Hispanics. If Trump did that, he would be a racist.
Ryan's been
so
raising
you guys
his
need
hand.
to basically have some balls and admit where your party is at fault.
You know, we all have anecdotal things we've heard about each other's party that we think is representative of how awful they are. We all resonate with feeling like we can't talk to people who don't believe the way we do. We all feel like we've been silenced. We all feel victimized. We all feel attacked. The election isn't going to be won or lost on those things. Elections are complicated civics. It's about who actually shows up to vote. It's about who actually successfully gets their supporters out to vote. Donald Trump's campaign doesn't actually really have a ground game, by which I mean getting people knocking door to door, getting them out to the polls. He's outsourced that to a PAC that is funded by Elon Musk, which I'm not commenting on that except to say it's not as effective of a strategy. Meanwhile, the Democrats have thousands of field offices across the swing states in the United States. So, just structurally speaking, while there is, and this is a fact, there is an inherent electoral advantage for Republicans because of the way the Electoral College works, there is a structural advantage for Democrats insofar as we actually have a robust campaign that is meant to actually find people and get them out to vote, whereas, to be honest, the Republican Party is preparing to just challenge whatever happens.
I think Kamala is honestly just a shit candidate, and she's gonna f the country up. She's already had 4 years. No one's elected her. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Democratic Party wins only because of the way they have strategically undermined democracy, because Trump was almost assassinated. When you're constantly calling somebody a Nazi and a threat to democracy, that's what fucking happens. Real political violence, and they are the ones who enable that. Identity politics too. She has radicalized millions of Democrats by telling them your entire identity revolves around your race, your gender, your sexuality. To the blonde dude over there, when I was speaking earlier, you talking about, you can't believe my standpoint on transgenderism because I'm a black gay man. You know nothing about me, actually. You assumed my sexuality. You assumed my race. I'm a mixed individual. I'm half Hispanic, half black, viva la raza, all that. And I'm actually bisexual. I can pull bad bitches when I want to. So you know nothing about me. It's projection because you're a black gay man and you can't pull bitches.
Okay,
projection.
I just jump in? Time out. Blossom's had the mic for a minute. We're going to Blossom.
Yeah.
Quiet on this side.
I am a firm believer Kamala Harris is going to win for many different reasons. Let's be very clear. The Conservative Party has a rift in it because there are conservatives over here, traditional conservatives, and then there's Trumpers over here. Because over 200 Republicans are actually voting for Kamala Harris, including Dick and Liz Cheney. So let's just be very clear on that. Number two, Can we please respectfully stop the trans erasure here? Because it's very important. If you are not a trans person, you're talking about trans issues that might need to be passed to trans people, first of all. And respectfully, the Republican side, past genitalia, has no valuable talking points around trans people. Because again, it is so much more about biology. Trans people, when we talk about that conversation, it is around gender identity, which Republicans do not have the intellectual capacity to hold that conversation. So I just want to make it very clear. Donald Trump radicalized an insurrection on January 6th that killed one of y'all's side of the aisle. Let's be very clear. A young lady was killed there, and she was a Republican because Trump radicalized. Trump did not make the message or make the call to stop. Instead, he told him to storm the Capitol. And so one of y'all's lost their lives because of what he's done. So how do y'all explain that?
So again, I do want to say, Blossom, I will say thank you for at least saying that. I'd say my biggest talking point right now is no one can deny Trump did make a video where he did say he would ban transgender healthcare. This is the problem that I have with that, and it's that I don't think realistically he could ever do that. And do I think realistically he believes that? No. I think a lot of politicians say things to just kind of earn some points. Being trans is a hot button topic right now, so what's going to catch voters' eyes saying, I'm going to ban it? Do I really believe so? No. And even if he wanted to try, I don't think he would even have the power to do so because it would just get shot down. So let's bring up January 6th. The mass meandering through the Capitol. I mean, really, what was the damage on there? I think if we really wanted to bring it up, how many? Because I'm pretty sure the Republicans... Well, okay, how about we bring up the riot? And I'm not going to say, this is what I will say real quick. I'm not going to say whether or not I agree with the riots of 2020 because I don't think that's the point, and I'm not going to talk about it, but at the end, or not talk about whether I agree with it or not, but at the end of the day, there was a lot more people who died and a lot more damage that was done during those riots. Most of the people who actually died during the Capitol 6 was just Trumpers. They were the injured people. They were the ones who were getting shot in the throat. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, whatever, they're just such bad victims, even though I do think a lot of them were victims. I mean, we still have a lot in federal prison right now who are being held on terrorist charges years and years and years. Basically internal imprisonment for life for a mass meandering through the Capitol. I think if they really wanted to do damage, that many people in the Capitol could have destroyed if they really wanted to, but I don't think they tried.
The revisionist history on January 6th needs to stop. I know people on the right always bring up, well, Trump said march peacefully and patriotically, but actions speak louder than words. He sat in the White House for 3 hours. After he was told the Capitol had been breached, what's the first thing he does? He tweets, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what he had to do. What does he do after that? He calls Kevin McCarthy and says, well, Kevin, I think these people are a lot more mad about the election than you are, as both of these people are in hiding from Trump's radical supporters that are trying to break into the Capitol. Someone mentioned earlier lawfare and politicizing the justice system. That is so ironic, and I would encourage people to Google this because I know these people aren't going to believe me. Trump tried to appoint someone named Jeffrey Clark as the Attorney General. The DOJ threatened to all resign, like all the top leadership threatened to resign because Jeffrey Clark was going to send a letter to swing states saying that your results are fraudulent, you need to send electors for Trump. Trump's also been indicted for fraud in multiple different swing states where he tried to organize not alternative electors, fake electors by the admission of his own team, verbatim fake electors, right? So if you want to talk about politicizing the justice system or democracy, this is a very clear choice, and this transcends any other policy. Trump has said verbatim that we need to terminate the Constitution, and J.D. Vance has said this, and you guys aren't going to know this either. J.D. Vance has said that Donald Trump should fire every single civil servant, Google this, fire every single civil servant, replace them with his people, and then when the Supreme Court tells him to stop, he should ignore the Supreme Court. So where's the party of the Constitution now?
That piece.
Look. At the end of the day, the party that's actually going to win is the party that actually puts families first. The nuclear family is the micro, the cell of the whole world. Like, we don't have families anymore. Everybody's talking about individual shit. You're talking about this right. What about the family's right? What about the right to have a family and protect the family instead of divide the family? That's the party that will win when you put families first instead of everybody else.
Okay, so about January 6th, I can speak quite a bit on this issue because I was actually in D.C. on January 6th. I was scheduled to speak at the Capitol building. It was an event that was going to be taking place coinciding with the other event that happened at the Ellipse. President Trump exited the stage and attendees were instructed to walk towards the Capitol building for these speeches. It was then Capitol Police insurrectionists that got involved and basically agitated the crowd. We had people that were within the crowd that were actually involved in this agitation. And before any of this happened, President Trump actually knew, and he had an idea, hey, we need to increase the security. He reached out to D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and said, hey, let's get the security up for this event. Let's make sure we have enough Capitol Police officers there. They both declined because they didn't see it as important enough. They didn't see it as risky enough. So each and every time we hear this rhetoric about saying, oh, Trump insurrected, he said to his people, go march there and attack the Capitol building. No, I was there at that speech, front row, 10 feet away from that man when he said, march peacefully. I saw on Twitter before they nuked him off the platform, he said, protest peacefully, hurt nobody. And at the very end, when he got word that people were going in there and hurting people, and there was people like Ashley Babbitt being shot and killed, he posted a video on Twitter, once again, before he was nuked off the platform, saying, please leave, do not break any laws, go home, and stop. That is what President Trump did on that day.
I think the reason that Kamala Harris is gonna win this election is because I think we live in a new generation where there is empathy, where people try to understand each other, people try to understand others' experiences, people try to accept each other and love each other and let people live the lives that they need to live as long as it's not affecting other people. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, I heard a lot of you guys say, oh, when I lived under Trump's America, it was great. When I lived under Trump's America, it was fine. Let's be honest, our relatives on Standing Rock Reservation are fighting for their land right now. Our relatives are fighting for their fishing rights right now. Our relatives are fighting to keep their children on their reservations. We just had ICWA, an entire case trying to dismantle our right as indigenous people to keep our own people on our land. So maybe you had an amazing time, but Trump literally called up representatives and tried to get the Mashpee Wampanoag people to get their rights revoked, their tribal rights revoked. So maybe you had an amazing time under Trump's America, but maybe ask a Mashpee Wampanoag person what their life was like under Trump's America. Maybe ask a trans person what their life was like under Trump's America. It's not just about you. We need to have empathy.
Listen, I don't say this to create any kind of cacophony or any soundbite. This is just truly how I think. I think Donald Trump is a dangerous maniac. Hold on. Okay, let me finish, guys. I'm not trying to rile anybody up. This is just how I feel, okay? I think Kamala Harris I have a wealth of criticisms for her in her time as the DA, thank you, in San Francisco. I have a wealth, with Palestine, I have a wealth of criticisms for Kamala Harris. But the fact is, Donald Trump represents a threat to democracy, brother. He does, and you can groan about it all you want, but that's the truth, and that's why Kamala Harris will win.
And just one, I need like one full-hearted support.
I support Kamala Harris, and she will win this election because I cannot get behind any candidate that does not support the three branches of government and that is not going to abide by them. And the Supreme Court has given Donald Trump or anybody that holds the highest office in the world full authority to be a dictator, to not listen and have proper checks and balances. And that is why his former cabinet members do not support him, because they know what he tried to do. Not what he did, which was already polarizing and horrific, but what he wanted to do. And now he will have no reins. If you don't like Kamala Harris, guess what? You have checks and balances. You don't have to like the candidate that we like. But if you are for the party that is of the Constitution, why would you want to support someone that is inherently against it?
Okay. We've heard both sides debate the candidates. Now they're going to submit their votes. Every participant in the room is going to submit a vote. Here, we will tally them and then reveal who theoretically would be president if it was up to this room.
I voted for Kamala Harris because I think her policies are better for the American people, like the economy, and that sentiment is shared by the majority of top economists. And I also believe that her social policies are better, such as an issue that's important to me, like abortion. Also, the main reason is because I think Trump should be nowhere near the Oval Office after he tried to circumvent the will of the American people. So I very much share the sentiment of lifelong Republicans like Dick Cheney, who says it's no longer about party, it's about country.
I voted for Donald J. Trump because I want America to get back to normal. I want a lower economy. I want a closed border. I want to find the 329,000 missing migrant children. I would like to see lawfare stopped in our country. And I want to also take on big pharma and just the big bureaucracy and the military war complex that's supporting Kamala Harris.
I wrote undecided because I feel like the politics that we are dealing with is very unethical in our nation. For me, as a Democrat, as a progressive, and as a leftist, I am against exploitation in every form and in every way. I think that every human being should be treated with justice and equality. And for that reason, I am pro-life. I think that the unborn are individual human organisms with a body plan. They resist atrophy. I think that they deserve the right to life. I think that us as communities, we need to do a better job coming around families, protecting them, giving them the resources they need to live sustainable and happy lives inside and outside the womb. I live in Ohio, so the chances that my vote is going to affect anything is very small. I think I would like to stick by my principles, and my principles tell me that since what I vote isn't going to matter that much, I'm not going to give that little piece that I have to people that I know are going to abuse other people with that power.
We talk a lot about politics in our home. The kids were raised talking about what's going on in the world and current events and so forth. And so I always taught the kids to be their own people, to have their own minds. And because while I'm their mom and while they were raised under the Christian construct, I wanted them to be free to be who they are. And so here we are.
And I'm not really affected by my mother's insanity anymore.
Get out of here.
No, I think I do not respect Donald Trump enough to let it ruin my family any longer. And so I would rather find the true middle ground with my mom and be able to accept her as she is, because I'm not going to change her and she's not going to change me. Yeah. So how do we find a relationship in spite of that?
Right.
When I walked in today, I was undecided because a few things that Trump has said in the past, such as suspending the Constitution. And as a conservative and a Republican, our lifeblood is the Constitution. Part of what made me change my mind is that he says a lot of things. I mean, even the biggest conservative and biggest Trump supporter can admit that he likes to talk a lot and say a bunch of random things. And he's walked back those statements and said that that's not exactly what he meant. And in that respect, that's why I can change my vote.
I am currently undecided because I think Kamala Harris needs to run on more progressive policies. I honestly don't understand why she continues pandering to the right when there is a very large voter base that is there and ready to support her as long as she runs on more progressive policies. I also think I'm undecided because I'm kind of lucky to live in California, where it's a historically blue state. So I think that I could also use my vote to potentially uplift a third party like PSL, which I believe aligns with my values a bit more. But I do also think that if I lived in a swing state, I would definitely be voting for Kamala, because I do also understand the viewpoint of like voting is at this point also harm reductive, but I kind of hate that we have to choose between the lesser of two evils.
Today, I came in as an undecided voter because I don't feel represented by Kamala or Trump. I'm really passionate about the conflict happening between Israel and Palestine. Both of them are all about sending a lot of our taxpayer money over there. That taxpayer money should be going back to American citizens because the country is in decline, and I feel like both of them want to fund wars and not fund the American people.
Too big to rig. Make America hot again.
I voted for PSL, which is the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Palestinians like myself have felt disenfranchised by the Democratic Party. This genocide was only possible because of Biden-Harris. They're the ones who perpetuate this genocide, and they have the power to end it. Kamala Harris has decided not to, so she cannot and will never earn my vote.
I came in thinking that I would vote for Trump because of his patriotism and just the way that he carries himself. But after today, with the discussion, just being around everybody, everyone's at each other's throat, and I just don't believe that is that I support either group just because I'm just like to have fun. I like to, care for others, and a lot of people just are now getting emotionally involved in the situation, I believe.
I actually came in here as an undecided Republican, but I ended up voting for Donald Trump. Throughout our almost, I think it's 10 hours here, everyone was at each other's throats, and everyone was trying to convince the other that their cause was just. What I realized about Trump is that Trump is a nationalist. He's a horrible man, he's selfish, he's racist, and he wants to make money. And that is why he's a good man for the country, because in his quest to make income and in his quest to expand himself, he will inevitably also make the country a better place. After 4 years, he'll be gone, and a new president will take his place, who is hopefully not as much as a fool as these two.
What happened in today's discussion that changed my mind from leaning towards Harris to going to undecided is the focus on Donald Trump and figuring out who's better on specific like character traits that weren't related to actual solutions for the American people that would move us forward and help out middle-class families.
Boys for Harris, lady boys for Trump. I am voting for Donald J. Trump in the 2024 election. Despite anti-trans policies that have been presented, I don't believe that in any legal manner they would pass. And on top of that, I believe in the freedom of the American people. When we have a great economy, everyone, including trans people, benefits the most compared to what we currently have, where trans people's acceptance rates have plummeted.
I think Kamala Harris is both the way we rescue our democracy from the brink, and she's actually got great policies. As a Californian, I've been her constituent for over a decade, and I've seen her be really effective in office. So my experience of her has been that she's been good at the offices she's held so far, and she's going to be good at this one too.
The reason I am undecided, likely write-in, is because I reject the idea that we have to pick between two evils. I think there's certain values that we all share, and if we just would stick with those values, I think we would have a lot more in common than we actually think. But because of this idea that we have to pick one or the other, both sides have gone all in into all the philosophies, and I think if we stuck to our values, the election would look very different.
I voted for Harris because she passed fundamental legislation that's beneficial to the middle class, including the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, the PACT Act, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill. She was the most influential vice president ever. She had the most high-breaking votes of any vice president ever, so I support her because of her effective policy.
All right, the votes have been counted, and it's time to read our results. But first, I just want to thank everybody in this room for participating in this special election episode of Middle Ground. If it was up to this room to choose the next president of the United States, this is how the votes would break down. Trump would receive 25 votes. Harris would receive 23, which means Trump would be the next president of the United States. If you are a viewer, we would encourage you to vote if you are an American citizen. If you are unhappy with the results of the election in this room, the only way to change it is to participate.
Knowing today's result with Trump winning, I still wouldn't vote because the people have spoken, and if Trump wins, then he wins, and hopefully he'll lead the country in a great direction. And I do think that no matter who wins, there's going to be a lot of upset people and a lot of happy people.
This mock elections result has shown to me at least a few things. One of the biggest things is that the left seems to be a little undecided in a lot of ways, and I think the right has come together a little more and represents the general public more and is able to agree on topics more.
What I would say to folks who aren't prepared to vote for Harris is that we get to live in the world as it actually exists, not the one that we wish exists. And the reality is you have two choices, and not voting is a choice. And it probably isn't going to get you the outcome you want.
The mock election result was...
I love the mock election result.
Annoying.
You know?
I think that this is like a really important example of the value of a vote. Sometimes this system feels very impressed upon us. and that we don't really have much of a choice, and that we're like sort of not autonomous over this political system, but we are. Everyone's vote matters, and I understand why people might not want to vote for Kamala Harris. Get over it.
And I think that this should be a message to Kamala Harris specifically. She will lose the election if she continues down this path of placating to the right and pandering to Republicans. And will I still vote for her or not vote for her in November if she does not move on Israel and if she does not institute an arms embargo to stop the genocide of Palestinians? I will have no choice but to move forward with my decision.